Good morning, boys. We will begin the next lesson in English literature. And the next lesson in English literature is the Song from Heaven. And this chapter is on page 46. So please open your textbooks to page 46 as we do this chapter. Now, the Song from Heaven was a poem written by a priest called Father Joseph Moore. Okay? And he lived in a village in Austria. Now, where is Austria? Austria, as you can see in the map, is in Europe and it is next to the country Germany. So, this priest lived in a small village in Austria and he was inspired to write a simple Christmas poem. The poem became a song and the song became a carol. Now, what is a carol? A carol is a religious song that people sing at Christmas. So, it is a religious song sung by the Christians during Christmas. Okay. So, and what happened to this poem? It became a song and it became very, very famous all over the world. So, read about how a few lines penned with devotion brought joy to millions of people around the world. Now, which we all have heard many Christmas carols, and especially even if we are not Christians living in Shillong, most of us have heard lots and lots of Christmas carols. So, which is this Christmas carol which became so famous?
Holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother.
So, this is the Christmas carol which was written by Father Moore. And I am sure all of you have heard this Christmas carol and you know how famous it is. And it is a beautiful carol. If anyone has not heard it, please go after listening to this lesson. Please make it a point to listen to this carol. I really have my doubts that there's anyone who has not heard this carol. So, today we are going to learn about the story behind the birth of this carol, how this carol was written or how this poem was written and how it became famous. And today in every church in at all all over the world, wherever Christmas is celebrated, this carol will definitely be sung. So, Father Joseph Moore. Now, this is Father Joseph Moore. And he was the person who wrote this beautiful poem, which later became a song. So it was in the year 1818, and it was on this Christmas Eve. So I'm sure all of you know what's Christmas Eve, the day or the night before Christmas. The air was particularly festive. So you know what happens during Christmas time. Everything seems so nice and bright. Though the weather is very cold, we feel so happy because everything is lighted and there is cheer and joy, and the Christmas and the church bells ring and people sing Christmas carols, and there is so much festivity. So the air was particularly festive. Father Moore opened his Bible to prepare his sermon. So as I told you, he was a priest, and that night would be a special night at the church. So he was preparing a sermon, means what he was going to speak at the church, what he would be telling the people who would come to attend the church, okay, and read about that special night when an extraordinary baby was born to ordinary parents in a little manger. Now, what does that mean? Now, look at this picture. So, I'm sure every one of you are familiar with this picture. This is the picture of baby Jesus and his mother Mary. So, here when they are saying Father Moore opened his Bible to prepare his sermon and read about that special night when an extraordinary baby was born to ordinary parents in a little manger. Now that means extraordinary baby was Jesus Christ, who is the Son of God. So he was not a common baby. He was the Son of God. So an extraordinary baby was born on that special night, on Christmas Eve. No, just at the when it became the 25th, absolutely at 12 midnight. Yes. And to ordinary parents, that means his parents, Jesus Christ, who was his very extraordinary baby, the Son of God, but he was not born to some very rich parents. He was born to parents who were very ordinary people. His father, as you all know, was a carpenter. Okay, so his parents were very ordinary. Just as he finished reading the story, he heard a knock. So who was reading this story? Father Moore was reading, and he was thinking about the night when Jesus Christ was born, and reading the Bible and preparing his sermon. And he was in his thoughts, he had drifted to the time Jesus Christ was born. And just at that time, someone knocked at his door. Now, who knocked at his door? A peasant woman stood at the door. Peasant woman? A woman who was not very rich. Okay? Peasant woman. Okay? So she was not from a very rich background. So she was standing at the door. And why was she standing at the door? She was standing at the door because, let's see now why. "What can I do for you?" Father Moore asked. "It's not for me, Father," said the woman, "but for a baby born a while ago to some peasants. The parents are keen that you see the child and bless it. Father, I have come to take you there." So, this lady who was a peasant had come on behalf of another peasant who had just had a baby, and they wanted Father Moore to go and bless the baby. Okay. And just some time back, Father Moore was thinking about the birth of Jesus Christ, who was an extraordinary child but was born to ordinary parents, just like the peasants. So Father Moore was taken by surprise. Surely it could not be a coincidence that he received news of this baby just when he was reading about the birth of Christ. So Father Moore was very surprised because he was just reading and thinking about the birth of Christ, and at the same time, someone comes to call him to bless a baby who was just born. "Of course," Father Moore said to the woman. When Father Moore reached the peasant's hut, he saw the young mother cradling her infant lovingly. So you can see a little baby born there. So he saw a little baby cradled in his mother's arms. "What a blessed day this is, Father," said the mother, smiling down happily at her baby. Father Moore nodded and said a silent prayer for the infant. On his way back home, Father Moore kept replaying the events of the evening in his mind. So, as he was walking back to his church, he kept replaying what happened that evening. So, on the way, he was walking back and it was winter time. Yes, because that was Christmas time. So Christmas happens during winter. And Austria has absolutely white Christmas. There is a lot of snow during Christmas time in Austria. Okay, so as he was walking back to his church, he kept thinking about what happened that evening. He could not forget that he was reading about Jesus Christ and just the birth of Jesus Christ, and just at that time, this little child's parents called for him to bless him. He couldn't forget the scene of the infant lying in its mother's arm. All around him, preparations were underway for the midnight mass as the village celebrated the birth of Christ. So, all around him, as he was walking, people were getting ready to celebrate, to come to church at midnight and celebrate the birth of Christ. Okay? So, later that night, Father Moore decided to write down what had happened in his diary. So, he thought he would sit in at night and write down what had happened that day. So, as he sat, he felt that his mind was racing back 2,000 years to another star-studded night on a hillside in Bethlehem. His emotions overflowed with power and beauty of that night. So he kept remembering that night so long ago. He begins to catch a vision of the majesty of what actually took place. So he is remembering about what had taken place 2000 years ago in the quietness of the moment, and everything around him was quiet. He could almost feel the light as it touched the face of Mother Mary. Okay, he felt that he could almost see the light that was touching Mother Mary's face. With the eyes of his mind, he saw an angel awakening Mother Mary, announcing the divine child. Okay, so Mary was the mother of Jesus Christ, and it's almost in his mind he could replay seeing, and he felt that he was seeing an angel telling Mother Mary that her divine child was about to be born. And then how she and her husband struggled to get a place for them to stay that night in Bethlehem. They could not get any place, but they had to rest in a humble stable. There, the Messiah, the Son of God, was born in humility and weakness. So, all this he kept on remembering. And as he remembered, he started writing the words, and the words seemed to have a will of their own. And as he started to write in his diary, he felt that the words were popping out very easily and naturally. Quite naturally, his lines flowed into beautiful verses. When he finally stopped, Father Moore found that he had composed a poem. So when he finally stopped writing, he saw that he had composed a poem. So the next morning was Christmas Day. The music teacher of the village school, Franz Xavier Gruber, came to visit Father Moore. When he read the poem, he took out his guitar and composed a tune to match the words. The poem thus formed into a lovely song. Father Moore and Franz Gruber decided to sing the song at church. Okay? They sang to the accompaniment of Franz Gruber's guitar. Why?